super excited to have on our show today Maya Payne Smart. Maya Payne Smart is a parent educator, literacy advocate, and the author of Reading for Our Lives, a literacy action plan from birth to six. Her website, mayasmart.com, publishes new book lists, literacy activities, and other free family resources weekly to help parents play their dual roles as first teachers and educational advocates. Maya holds a master's degree in journalism from the Medill School at Northwestern University and a bachelor's in social studies with honors, of course, from Harvard University. She serves as an affiliated faculty member in educational policy and leadership in the College of Education at Marquette University. Welcome, Maya.
Thank you so much for having me. Excited to chat.
Yeah, Maya, I'm so excited that you are joining the show. As you know, colleagues saw you present at a local conference and needed to have you on the show. So I'm super excited that you agreed to be on. Maya, we so appreciate all of your advocacy literacy work to help families and educators support students' reading. And you do that with such intentionality and joy to help build proficient readers. So thank you for that work.
Thank you so much.
So, Maya, I've had an opportunity to speak to several leaders recently, and they're putting a greater emphasis on family engagement. Would you help our audience really understand what family engagement is and why it's so powerful?
It is just critical to engage families in student learning because so much learning happens outside of the confines of the school day. And so much learning happens in the years before school begins. So if we aren't attentive to parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles and all the people who surround children, we're just missing out on hours and hours of kind of an informal instructional time just in the life of a child. And those early years in particular are critical. And so sometimes people think once a child is school age that there's not as much value to engaging the family, but those families often have younger siblings or cousins or neighbors. And so we have to get in this mindset of thinking of all children and sort of the ripple effects that come from just having a society and families who are more knowledgeable about learning. And it makes the teacher's job easier when parents understand and family members understand what it means to have a child ready to take advantage of classroom instruction.
So true. So then, having said that, we know that it's super powerful. What advice would you give school leaders and teachers to better engage families to support student literacy development in particular?
I would encourage schools to think beyond events. So I think schools can be very focused on, this is our family literacy night, or this is our such and such activity. But it's not just that event. It's not just that one interaction. It's about really cultivating relationships
Mm.
among families and teachers, but other people in schools. It could be administrators and the person in the attendance office. So oftentimes when we use the word engagement, people have just sort of a mental model of what that is. And we must engage these families and we're going to send them these communications and we're going to do this tactic or that tactic. And it really starts more with an invitation. So being very welcoming to families and just like in a relationship, you're not going to immediately get engaged, right? There's there's courtship. So I think that it's helpful for schools to think of it in that way as well. Find multiple ways to invite parents just even to talk to you
Yeah.
about their child, because a lot of parents are bringing some baggage to school because of their own experiences.
So very true. And I think so. It's important also, Maya, when we think about it, also builds community among families. There's nothing like sharing, hey, this is happening with my child. And guess what? This is also happening with my child. So you can really build that community and resource within those groups.
I see many schools struggle with getting turnout for, again, these parent focused events that they're hosting. And so, a lot of planning and preparation goes into it. You have the school cafeteria or the gym or whatever space it's in. And then there aren't that many families that attend because of work conflicts, transportation issues. There's just a number of reasons that might keep a family that genuinely cares about their child's education from being able to make it at that specific day and time. So I also like to remind people again to build the relationship with who is there. and,
That's right.
and so sort of manage your expectations and plan for there to be more one-on-one conversations, plan for there to be, because then that creates opportunities for more listening. And then
Sure.
you hear about what parents need from you in order to help their child.
Sure. You focus on the birth to age 6. Can you say more about how that age range really supports children's literacy development in schools?
Absolutely. So in the womb, children, even prior to birth, are hearing their mother's voice, right? So they're beginning their exposure to language. And then once they're born, they're through conversation with you, through hearing your voice. There's just so much learning and development that occurs in infancy. And we know from all kinds of research from a number of fields that there's so much brain growth that happens in those first
Mm.
few years. And the primary mechanism of that brain growth is language. So parents should be talking to babies even before the babies can return the questions with actual words that we understand, but we have to learn to recognize those coos and babbles as really important communication. And the connection to literacy is all about words. And the words that our kids are going to be able to recognize and print and make sense of and print once we've taught them to decode are the words that they've heard spoken in language. So there are two big buckets of what goes into reading. There is that ability to map speech sounds to printed letters,
Sure.
which is, phonics, spelling. But then there's also just this deep well of background knowledge and content knowledge and vocabulary that kids need to have to know what those words mean. And so parents play a vital role as vocabulary builders in those early years. And I think parents also can do a lot of letter teaching and instruction prior to school, because there are studies that show that letter names are kind of part of the language of kindergarten. And so when a teacher says something like, point to the letter C, a child that doesn't know about letters, doesn't know about the alphabet, may be hearing C and thinking of C like vision, or
Right.
C like a body of water, or who knows. So we have to kind of give kids the things that they need to be successful. And language is a big part of that. And brain development is a huge part of that. And that happens again earlier.
When I think about places where there may be a language barrier. Maybe parents don't speak the language, or maybe, again, parents are super busy just trying to put food on the table and clothes on kids' backs and a roof over their head. How do we really get to those families?
We encourage parents to speak in whatever language they're most comfortable in and to give their child the benefit of learning that vocabulary and learning those words and just learning about communication. The brain function that kids need can be built in any language, right? So then if you're a parent and your school is teaching in English and you want your child to learn English, but that's not your strength, that's where the community piece comes in, and other families and your public library story time. So if we learn to tap into our larger networks, we can really support kids in powerful ways.
I love that. Now, would you remind us of some practical strategies for families that they can do at home, like again today? So if they listen to this today, that they can go right home to help build strong readers by doing these particular practical strategies. Can you share some?
Absolutely. So one I like to start with is around conversation, and in particular back and forth conversational exchanges to build your baby's brain, or your toddler or your preschooler. And I use the acronym TALK because it's easy to remember. The letters T, A, L, and K. So the T is for taking turns, because many parents have been told, talk to your child all the time, narrate what's happening in your day as you change their diaper, describe the fruits and vegetables in your refrigerator, the grocery store aisle. But it's not just the words that the adult speaks that matters, it's the child's response and their attempts at communication and vocalization. Again, even before they're speaking in words and sentences that we understand. So take turns is huge. And
Yeah.
then asking questions is really powerful because it creates that space for the child to think, understand, and try to communicate. And we know that they need those vocabulary and expressive skills down the road. And then the L is for labeling and pointing. So I always tell people their index finger is just so powerful for pointing to things. When you point to something, it brings the child's attention in line with yours. And then you can give them a word for that color or that shape or that item or whatever it is in your environment. And it also gives kind of a crutch to parents who are tired and think, oh, I don't have anything to talk about. I don't know what to say. Find something, point at something, and give it a word for your child and take it from there. And then the K is just to keep the conversation going because the quantity of those conversational turns matters.
Yeah, I love that. I love that talk. It's a really great way to remember it for sure. Now, as we close, Maya, I really would love it if you would share one thing to empower our school leaders, our teachers, and families. Like, what would that one thing be?
You can do it. So I always leave that idea with parents, regardless of what your personal literacy level is. You know more than your preschooler about the alphabet, about just the world, and you can lend them that knowledge and you can introduce them to other people to help broaden their language experiences to support literacy learning down the road. But I guess for this, since your question was about schools and administrators as well as parents and families, I would say that the thing I'd like to leave you with is we can do it. It really takes all of us to
Yeah,
get kids where they need to be. Learning to read is a years long journey. And so if we focus too narrowly on any one type of person or one type of institution, we're just missing too many opportunities to support kids in their growth and development as readers.
awesome. We can definitely do it, Maya. Thank you so much for your expertise and your wisdom.
Thank you.